significantly, and it's I guess for that reason I'm very passionate about it, and I'm looking forward to sharing with you about the beauty of Arabic and learning a little bit of grammar and having some fun. So just a brief introduction. Can you hear me? Okay, so I think this is better for now. For a brief introduction, basically I'm going to go over a little bit of Arabic terminology, just trying to understand, because there's a lot of maybe some words, terminology being thrown out there, Islamic Arabic, Fusha, modern Arabic, so which Arabic is which? So we'll study a little bit about that. I'll talk about my own personal journey with learning classical Arabic. I think it's helpful to talk about my own experience as a non-Arabic speaker and my relationship with Arabic and how so that you can sort of see maybe similarly how your own children or yourselves may follow a similar path. And then basically we'll do a brief introduction into Arabic. We'll see how far we get, but I'll be using some of the text here that your students or your children are using, which is the Easy Arabic Grammar. And I have a list of resources at the end that I'll share with you. And then here's another one. This is the one that I used in particular. It's much more detailed, much more intensive if you're looking for a more detailed study, but I'll be sharing some of these resources with you. So basic Arabic terminology. So some of you guys have probably already heard maybe the word Fusha. Maybe, has anyone heard that word Fusha before? Yeah, so that is basically the Arabic word for classical Arabic. And in this case, our Sunday school curriculum, we're using the term Islamic Arabic. So basically, when we're talking about Islamic Arabic, it's the same as classical Arabic, it's the same as Fusha. And this form of Arabic has been, it's a classical literary form of Arabic that has basically preserved modern standard Arabic, which we'll talk about. And it's fascinating because the Quran itself has actually been the force for continuing the Arabic language and sort of preserving its essence without changing any of the basics of the grammar and words. Modern Standard Arabic is a second form of Arabic, so you can break down Arabic in 3 ways. I think this is easy.
Sorry.
Can everyone hear me okay? Okay. So basically, Arabic can be broken down into 3 forms. The second form is Modern Standard Arabic, and that's the form of Arabic that, if you listen to BBC Arabic, it's going to be in Modern Standard Arabic, and modern literature is written in Modern Standard Arabic. News broadcasting and such are in Modern Standard Arabic. And colloquial Arabic, so it's its own terminology, it's its own section, we'll talk about that, but that's basically Arabic spoken in different dialects depending on which country you are in. So sort of let's compare a little bit about classical Arabic versus modern standard Arabic. So some people, you might wonder, so what is the difference? Are we studying classical or modern standard? Technically this book is modern standard Arabic. However, if you can see here, the case notes in this book provide situations where they denote that this is a classical Arabic fact. So it sort of, so you can sort of distinguish some of the differences. With classical Arabic, the harakat here, the fatha, dhamma, kasra are extremely important. We never drop those endings because it gives a significant, it significantly impacts the meaning of the noun or the verb that it's being used. So always in the Quran, you will always see the fatha, kasra, dhamma. There will never be a situation where those won't exist. However, in modern standard Arabic, the harakat are not often written. So if you look at the news, it's not written in there. And also, it's the vowel endings here, the harakat, are often dropped, actually, in modern standard Arabic at the end. So it doesn't play as a significant role, but classical Arabic, it's essential. So that's one difference here. And basically, interestingly, modern standard Arabic it has been, is important, and Arabs do study classical and they know modern standard Arabic because it sort of unifies all the countries so that someone from Algeria can speak with someone from Syria and maybe they can speak in modern standard Arabic and understand each other well. Because I know sometimes dialectical differences can create some challenges, as I've heard before. So then I really like this chart. It sort of like breaks it down because ultimately the essence and the beginning of Arabic really comes from classical Arabic. And so broken down into the two types are modern standard, which is the formal form, and dialectic Arabic is informal. And then you can see here that there's, with the colloquial or dialectic Arabic, that there's 6 different dialects, as you can see. It's just something I wanted to share, just interestingly enough. This is sort of interesting because it breaks down the countries and the different types of Arabic that are spoken in different countries. So for the purpose of our little Arabic series that we'll be doing is we'll be studying, focusing on the classical Arabic, and so it's very different than the colloquial dialectical Arabics. There's some slang that are used that in modern day time, in different countries that are not used. For example, when we're looking at the Quran, it has a different meaning. So I'd just like to share a little bit about my own personal experience with classical Arabic. So my personal journey, so I am not an Arab speaker from birth. I actually became a Muslim around the age of 17. So your kids have a head start, mashallah, with their study of Arabic. I started at 17. So basically I was still in high school and I started learning the Arabic alphabet and started studying how to read in Arabic. So a lot like what your kids are doing, starting from first, second grade. So that's sort of where that process started. Then that brought me to going to college, and then when I went to college, I studied modern standard Arabic, although I still think it was more Levantine, Syrian Arabic, Lebanese Arabic, because my teacher was from Lebanon. So I studied that for 2 years, so I learned some basic conversational skills. And then I moved to Massachusetts and during my graduate studies, and I met Sister Nadia. So I don't know if Sister Nadia is here. No. But Sister Nadia was the one who helped me, mashallah. She's an amazing teacher. I cannot thank her enough for the work that she's done with me personally to improve my pronunciation. And so Sister Nadia is the one who taught me Tajweed. So and Tajweed is the art of recitation, following rules of Tajweed to increase the flow and the sound, to perfect the sound and beautify your recitation of the Quran. So that's thank you to Sister Nadia. And then the next step in my journey was after I learned Tajweed, I said, this just seems like the natural next step for me. And that was to begin studying classical Arabic intensively with Fawaki Institute, which at the time was based in Boston, and the classes we would drive to Cambridge and Harvard. Sheikh Sohail, some of you guys may know him. He taught those classes. Ustad Sharif and Ustad Hisham Mahmoud were my teachers. MashaAllah. So they were amazing teachers. I cannot recommend enough that program. It's helped me immensely. I'll talk a little bit about that. So basically in Fawaki Institute, it's a 6-level program, and it takes about 4+ years to finish, and classes were 3 hours a week with 3 hours or more of homework. It ended up being much more than that. I didn't have a child at the time, so I could do it. But the first year of Arabic, I could understand after studying the first year of Arabic, and the reason why I like to share this is because it'll give you insight into what your children will be experiencing when they begin to open the door of studying Arabic. So in the first year of studying Arabic, I could understand du'as, and that was amazing, because imagine you sit in a group and you're making du'a, but you wish you knew what we were saying. And that started after the first year of studying Arabic. And then also being able to understand some basic short surahs. And then after year 2, we got more in depth into the study of the grammar, and then we were able to start to translate some of the hadith. although the dictionary was very much needed because the vocabulary is very challenging. And year 3, at that point, we were able, as all the students, we were all able to translate verses from the Quran, and this is what I'm also hoping to do with my students in Sunday school. I teach the 9th grade, is to be able to start to, hopefully by the end of the year, to be able to start to break down some of the surahs and start to, we use this book, which was the Surah Kahf workbook. I'm not sure if I'll be using this one by the end of the year. But being able to break down word by word and understanding what the grammar is of this ayah and what it means. And so that's where we were after year 3. I think we can get there sooner than year 3 because the level of detail was much more in this class. In year 4, we started into what was called rhetoric, studying balagha, which is not only, once you've learned the grammar is done. You just have to understand now the reason why Allah chose certain words over other words, understanding how rhyme occurs in the Quran, and it's a beautiful study, and that's something that your students or your children, when they get older, if they want to get into real detail, they can start to look at the rhetoric of Arabic in the Quran. So that's my experience in Chile. So it's interesting because who knows, you might follow a similar path. I can see so many students in the class. So the question here is, I kind of looked up, because I had my own reasons why I wanted to study Arabic. I wanted to have a deeper relationship with the Quran. I enjoyed the sound of the recitation, but I wanted to step into it a little bit more. And that was the reason why I studied Arabic. But what do the scholars say about why to study Arabic? So this is taken from Seekers Hub. Sheikh Faraz Rabbani runs that in Toronto. It's beautiful. They offer free courses online. And so basically, studying Arabic, and the scholars really categorize this as instrumental science, meaning that is the tool that helps people really have a sound understanding of Islam, that really gives them an understanding of knowledge within Islam. So if you're seeking knowledge, Arabic is a really, really good place to start. And knowing proper Arabic also really improves your recitation, because you're not thinking about, okay, this is the word or the letter that I'm reciting. This is the meaning that I'm conveying, and I want to convey the right meaning. So you have to say the word right if you want to convey the right meaning. And also the beauty of it, like I said, was that once the Quran has a special sound and rhythm, and it's audible, but when you look at the meaning, it's transformative. It's very transformative to your spiritual process. So it basically, and then the last step is for scholars students of knowledge who want to really study Islam on a deeper level. Arabic really is, they say, that really the first step. So there's different levels for all of us wherever we want to go in our relationship with Arabic. So let's dive into some of the classical Arabic. So I'll give you guys a little brief summary of some of the rules and stuff. So some of you guys might already know this, but Arabic is a Semitic language. So if we look here, it's broken down into there's different regions of the Semitic language, and so the Quran, or Classical Arabic in particular, is a Central Semitic language. And as you can see here, is because of the Hijaz Peninsula and the central, and where Mecca, the location of Mecca is, and so it is a Semitic language. So it's important to know that because Semitic languages follow similar patterns. They tend to have roots, and those roots are modified, and we'll look into some of that, what that looks like, modifying roots of words. And here, so looking at the Arabic roots, in this case, I gave an example. This is so Arabic is always broken down into 3-letter roots. And these 3-letter roots are modified in various ways to give you different meanings. However, the essence of the word, the true meaning of that word, is always derived from the root. And this is important to note, and so this might be a review for some of you guys, and this might be something that's totally new. But it's a basic fact that's important to note, that the roots also make up the past tense verb. So in this case, it's zara'a, and zara'a means to plant something. It means, so that's, we can say that the root is to plant. But if you're going to look at the verb itself, the verb is zara'a, which means he planted. So it's the past tense. So I'll show you a little bit more examples of that. So basically, the reason why I wanted to start with that too is because if you look in the Quran and you see a word that has 3 fatha like this, or 3-letter roots, then you'll know that, okay, I may not know what this means, but I know that that's a verb, and I know that it's a past tense verb for the third person, he. This is what was the first chapter in our Easy Arabic Grammar book. So that's what we went over with the students last week, and mashallah, they got it really quickly. They seemed to really understand that. But what we also learned about in our class was that if you add certain letters to their root, it completely gives you a specific word. It gives you a very specific word. So in this case, if we add a meme to zara'a, we have mazra'a, which means a farm. So if you think about it, so a meme here, and I won't expect you to memorize this in the beginning yet because this is a more advanced topic, but I just wanted to give you kind of a sneak peek that if you put a meme in front of the noun here, or the verb, and make it like this form, mazra'a, then what you're saying, a meme with a fatha before it, gives you the knowledge of this is a place where something happens. So that's what's so fascinating about Arabic, is just these little changes change the entire meaning and give you exactly what you're looking for. But what's fascinating about it though is that if you go back to find roots, and you can suddenly understand, okay, this is what this really means. And that's why it becomes important when you're studying the Quran, because you can go back and find these roots. I'll talk about that a little more, it's interesting. So mazra'a means the place where you plant, so that means a farm. And so here are more verbs. So some of you might know this word. I believe it's in Urdu. It's in Persian as fahama, is to understand. So the verb itself, fahama, means he understood. And if you look at the different forms, you add different letters here, and they change exactly the meaning behind the root. So, but it has its essence. So you kind of see some of the examples. So if fahm means to understood, then fahm means understanding. And there's things there are different letters that you add that will change it. For example, if you add an alif sin ta, istafama means you're asking, is you're seeking to know. So there's these little changes that impact the meaning. So that's just a background there. And again, in this case here, this is another meme with a fatha. In this case, it means shaghala means to be busy with something, like engaged with something. So mashghul means busy. So that's how you can see, in this case, the meme and the wow are added to the root. So it gets more detailed, and we start to study, the more we study Arabic, we learn these patterns of why we add certain letters, and we follow those patterns consistently. I tell my students it's very mathematical, and it's very interesting. And so that's here. And so I just wanted to kind of reiterate the fact that if you have the 3-letter roots, it means that the past tense of the third person. So in this case, qatala is the root. It's qaf, ta, lam is the root, and that also means that he killed. And jalasa is jim, lam, sin are the roots, and that means he sat. So this is be interesting then. How many of you guys have heard the word majlis? Yeah, so majlis is a place where you sit. So with the meme, with the fatha on top gives you the idea of this is a location where something happens. So that's, and then dahaba, you might know that as he went. And so basically in the ninth level class, our goal is to have these verbs down to the past tense and understanding the present tense, being able to conjugate those. So you can see here, to change the verb to a present tense verb, there are some little changes that happen. My plan is, inshallah, to hopefully do another series about that, but for today I wanted to focus on nouns, actually. So those are the past tense verbs. So this is also an interesting fact that I think might be useful to know, and again, I'll inshallah provide this as a reference. And I think it's just so fascinating. So Arabic, you know how we look up words in a dictionary? Like let's say, for example, we look up the word books. So we go to the dictionary in our English dictionary, and we go to B, right, for books, because we're looking up a noun. Arabic is totally different. In Arabic, if you say kitab, you think, okay, well, if I want to know what kitab really means, what's the root? I need to find out what the root of kitab is, because there's 4 letters there. We're looking for 3 root letters. So it's kaf, ta, ba, right? So it's kataba. So in the dictionary, what we're going to do is we're going to go to kataba. So when you look in the dictionary, you have to look through the roots of the words. And then when you go to the root of the word, it gives you a very, very detailed meaning of where that root came from. And Hans Ware is not even the most detailed dictionary. It's in the middle, but there are some dictionaries that will really go into detail. And the reason why I mention this point is that when you're looking at an ayah from the Quran, it's really important to also keep in mind that there are deeper meanings and layers behind some of the roots, and I'll talk about that. So, but here, for example, is abada. The 3 roots are alif, ba, da. And it means to be here. Oh, okay. Oh, actually, I think I did it wrong. But it should be at the top there, on the top right. It's eternal, endless. So abada means forever, and so that's where that comes from. And just an example of a fascinating root, and I think some of you guys might know this from some of the du'as that we say. This here, for example, the word qalaba, which is the root, in this case is qaf, lam, ba. If we look it up in the Hans Ware dictionary, which is what I did, I kind of copy-pasted the snippet of it online here. The word for qalb, as you can see here, actually, because I think you all probably know that qalb means heart, right? I think so qalb in Arabic means heart. And interestingly, if you look up, okay, well, let's look this up in the dictionary. Let's find out a little bit more about what's behind this word heart. And what we find is that qalaba, the word qalaba actually means to turn around, turn up, turn down, turn over. So you wonder, I wonder what the relationship is. So there's meanings that, and that's what is absolutely miraculous, I think, about Arabic, and is that there's so much more behind the scenes. So, and that's what gives it a rich meanings. You can have something that is so simple, a 3-letter word, but have so much power and meaning behind it. Because what we're really talking about is heart, is something that goes up and down and flips constantly over emotions and decisions and opinions and the human nature. So that's just a sneak peek into that. So in summary, just to conclude, this is basically, like I said, the first chapter in the Studying Arabic book. So most Arabic words have a sequence of 3 consonants. We gave a bunch of examples here. And vowels and consonants are added to the root to create the words and structures. So vowels meaning, like alif, for this case, kataba, kitab. Alif is added to make kitab, the book. But the word is kataba, means he wrote. So that's that. And the third point is, and mashallah, I was impressed that my students were able to memorize this so quickly, but the most common additional consonants here in the third bullet is mim, sin, ta. So those are the most common ones that get added in addition to the vowels. So my students, mashallah, were able to get that pretty quickly. that we add vowels and we add some of these consonants, and that changes the word to give you the varying meanings. And I think that's so yeah. Basically, I mean, like we talk about with the dictionaries, that these roots are the building block for the language, and so you can go back and you can understand the language in a much deeper way just by looking at the root. So I think some of this terminology is important. I highlighted here what we'll be focusing on in our lecture series, and also what we're doing in the Sunday school. So what we're looking at when we're looking at in the Easy Arabic Grammar book and some of the other resources we have is what's called the grammar, which is nah. And I'll talk about that a little bit more in the next slide. We'll do a little bit of writing. I think by default you have to write to take notes in Arabic. So we'll be doing some of the writing, and I talked a little bit about the Arabic rhetoric. But basically, if you want to know the detail of Arabic, these are the various subjects that are studied in detail. So this is poetry is something that's really big in the Arabic language, and I recommend Sheikh Sohail has a very fascinating blog post where he dives into a lot of the classical Arabic poetry and translates them and tells you some of the deeper meanings behind some of their roots. This is really fascinating. I can probably share that at some point. So we're looking, these are the different aspects of Arabic. But back to the Quranic Arabic, these are probably the most important terminology that we'll know, because if someone says, I'm studying Arabic, the question is, what part of Arabic are you studying? And so it can be divided into two major parts. The first one is it's called sarf, which is morphology. And really the definition of morphology is looking at how words are shaped and changed. So in this case, if you're conjugating a verb, you'll add a letter to it to make it a present tense verb. And in that case, when we're talking about some of the conjugations and what the word looks like once we've conjugated it, that's in the category of sarf. So that's looking at sort of the morphology. And just another example to kind of bring home the point is we all know iqra, right, means was read, is a command form, iqra. And the root of that is qa, ra, hamza, qara'a. And then the question is then, if we want to say that someone is a reciter, we add an alif after the qaf. And again, this is another subject, but I'm just trying to give you guys an overview. So in this case, it's qari, and the fact that we changed this little slight change is talking about morphology. And now is what we're really focusing on mostly, and this is the grammar and understanding how words are used in sentences and understanding the meaning behind how those words are used. And that's like what we'll be looking at today is is like the manner, the way you're using the language and what you're trying to convey with its meaning, with its use. So that's our focus. So this next section, just check the time. Okay. So words and types of words. So this is the resource that I use. It's very detailed, so I'll be providing it. So this is the title here, and I provided a copy here. So this was taken from the book. But basically, there's three main things to keep in mind when you're studying Arabic grammar, and that is that there's three different parts. There's a word, which is kalama. I think we all probably know that word is kalama, which means a word. And there are three different types of words. There's ism, which is a noun. There's fi'l, which means a verb. And there's harf, which is a particle. And we'll just take a look at that. So these are the three different types. So it's important to know some of this terminology because you might want to dive in and study it all at the same time, but it's important to sort of break it down. That first we're just going to focus on this. We're just going to focus on the nouns right now. And then, because the verbs add their own complication. But basically, some of the rules behind knowing why it's important to know that this is an ism is also to identify it in the Quran when you're reading, like way you know, okay, this is a noun, we're talking about something related to this. So an ism is its own independent word, and it cannot, it doesn't have any tense. it's timeless, basically, is how my teachers described it as a noun. So we're talking about nouns in nominal sentences, which is like the dog is black. That's a nominal sentence, which means that we're just talking about, we're not talking about time or place. This happened in the past or present. It is now. And fi'l is a word that indicates some action, and this is what actually makes Arabic so, in some ways, easy, because there's only 2 verb tenses. In English, we have so many different verb tenses. In Spanish, there's so many different verb tenses, but in Arabic, there's only 2. There's past and present. And classical Arabic does get a little bit more detailed, and does have sort of like passive voices. But for the most part, really, we're talking about past tense and present tense verbs. So it's actually pretty easy. Once you get the conjugation down, then you understand that you learn most of the grammar for conjugated verbs. And the harf, this is important to know because we see so many harf in the Quran. There's things like min, ala, hatta, illa. For example, Bismillah, the ba in the ism, Bismillah, ba itself is a harf. So what it does is these harf, or these particles, impact the nouns that occur before it. And so basically, just a brief overview of that. So basically, for today's purpose, we'll be focusing just on the definite and indefinite nouns, to dive right in. And we'll be talking about some of the masculine and feminine nouns, which was the second chapter today that we covered in our Arabic class in 9th grade. So basically, indefinite nouns, so I'm curious, maybe just with a show of hands, how many of you know this? Because I think some of you might already know this. I'm just curious how many people know this. Okay, yes. Like alif lam before a noun means the, or maybe, yeah. So that's, so I'll just go over this briefly, since I think some of you might know about it already. But in English, we have indefinite, means that it's not defined with, a cat. It could be any cat, so that's indefinite. And definite noun is the cat. We're talking about a very specific cat. And in this case, and this is what's important to know in Arabic, because this is how, when you read the Quran, you'll identify that it's a noun, because there's a tanween there at the end of kitab. So kitab means a book, and you will never see ever a tanween on a verb. So that's important to know. So you're looking at that, and then kursiyun is a chair. So there's always a tanween, and the tanween at the end tells you it's a something, a book, a chair. And a definite noun, we're talking about a very specific thing. We added alif lam before it, and that in this case is the alif lam here. El kitab is the book, el kursi is the chair. And this is important note too, because if you're ever reading to write or read in Arabic, you'll notice that there'll never be a tanween when there's an alif lam on the word. They can't go together, because it's either has to be definite or indefinite. So it's just a point to make. And this is important note too, because maybe you might notice in some of the du'as, we might say Muhammadun sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or you might say, well, it's a definite noun, we're talking about a specific person. But it's important to know that names, proper names, still take a tanween, even though it's considered, it's a definite, a specific noun that we're addressing. So that's why you'll always see in our du'as in the Quran that there's Muhammadun there. And then here's just a nice chart. It really explains it really well. That here we have the tanween on all the first section is kitabun, rajulun is a man, ba'iyun is seller, shajaratun. So and then al-kitab, al-rajul, al-ba'i. So that's how you understand that it's a specific word, the versus a book. So it's that. And then sort of jumping in, actually come to think of it, that was actually the third chapter in the book. And now this is the second chapter, so we didn't go order, but that's okay. So here we have Arabic is divided. We have all nouns are either masculine or feminine. And the reason why it's important to know this is because if you're going to conjugate a verb for that noun, you need to use the right verb conjugation. And I guess this is what makes Arabic more complicated, is that we do have different conjugations for male and female. And so that's essential to know. And also it impacts how you use adjectives with the nouns too. I'm curious, I don't know in Urdu, for example, I know in Farsi that there isn't male or female nouns, and that sometimes that's what makes Persian so easy. Is Urdu the same? Does Urdu has male and female? Oh, interesting, I didn't know that. So Arabic is the same way, and I think for people who are used to that concept, they understand, okay, well, it's just some languages they have nouns with male and female versions. And I think in Urdu, the conjugations are also changed depending if you're talking to a male or female, right? Yeah, so Arabic has the exact same concept. And so in this case, what makes it feminine is here the ta marbuta at the end. Here is the ta with the two dots on top at the end. So that's how you know it's feminine, is it says sahiba, that's a female friend, and sahib is a male friend. And then in this case, we have here, we will say student, talib, and taliba is a female student. And notice how, I tell my students this too, because it's something that I notice that's a mistake that I see, is that they say talibat, if they're talking about that, but you only pronounce the talibat if there's a word right after it. So, and it's important to know this because if you're reciting the Quran and you end up the ayah to pause, you have to breathe out and you don't say the ta, so, and you end and say talibat, like that. So it has sort of an airy sound at the end. So that's one thing that's important. It impacts the meaning as well as it impacts how you recite. So it's interesting. So it's important to know that. And I put some more detailed slides. I guess we'll see. I think we still have some time. I wasn't sure how much detail I should go into, but if some of that was basic, then this will get a little bit more advanced. And these are some of the later chapters in the book. And we're talking here about Arabic adjectives. So if we have a noun, Arabic adjectives are actually treated like nouns, interestingly enough, is they come right after, I'll give an example in English first. If we talk about something, we say it's a new car, and we say the adjective before. But in Arabic, the adjective comes after. So in this case, if we're talking about a new house, in the second section, second part, it says Baytun Jadidun. So it comes after. That means house, Bayt is house, and Jadid is new. Baytun Jadidun, so it comes after. So some of you might know that already. And the word for adjective in Arabic is na'at. And the noun that qualifies is man'ut. So it's kind of just some of the terminology that's used. Sometimes I find it's helpful to talk about things in terms of terminology. But looking at some of the adjective rules, so this will give you a little bit more detail. So this is, like I mentioned before, it's important to know whether a noun is masculine or feminine. And for that reason, if you know that the noun is feminine, then you will know that if you're talking about that noun, then that adjective also has to be feminine, or vice versa, masculine. So in this case, walad means boy, saghir means small, so waladun saghirun is a small boy. And basically, what I'd also like to note is, well, I guess it's the next slide, and then it's the same thing if it's feminine, is baytun saghiratun. And if you want to make, for example, saghir means small, and tawil means tall. If you want to make it feminine, it's very simple. You just add the ta marbuta at the end, which is the ta at the end of sagira, sagiratun. And so that's why it's important to know. So bint is a girl, and so sagira, it has to be sagira, it can't be sagir. That's being incorrect. And sayara means car. So sayara has a ta marbuta at the end. So that means it's feminine. And so we're talking about, oh, I have a new car, it's a sayaratun jadidatun, so like that. Although if you're reciting the Quran in Berlin, you don't pronounce the M. And then the second rule here that's important to know is that, as you might have noticed, as you can see, waladun, does anyone want to guess, is that indefinite or definite? Are we talking about a boy or the boy? A boy, right, so it's indefinite. So the adjectives that go with the noun also have to match in terms of its definiteness. So I think that's what's unique about Arabic too. So in this case, we have all indefinite nouns, we have all indefinite adjectives. And so in this case, if the noun is definite here with alif lam, the adjective also has to be definite. So, and mudarris and jadid, so like that. So, I think that's good. And it's the same thing here. So the noun is indefinite, the adjective is indefinite. So, I'm curious, is this new or do people know this already? I'm just curious. It's new? Oh, okay. I wasn't sure. So good, that gives us time to talk about the last part here that I had. Because I covered a lot of information actually in this slide, because I wasn't sure about the levels of different people and their study of Arabic. So I gave a lot of information. Maybe I can send out the PowerPoint if people want to take a look at it, if you want to take notes and study with it. And so this is also important to know too, is that if we're talking, in Arabic is broken down into three parts: the ism, the noun, the fi'l, and the harf. In this case, these all here are pronouns. So I guess I'll throw it out there. And then which category do you think it falls into? Ism, fi'l, or harf, the pronoun section? Yeah, I think I heard someone say ism. That's right, exactly. So it's ism. So basically, it's important to know that, so that that's how we'll be treating these pronouns, and it gets a little bit more complicated. But and so I think I told my students today, the thing when you study, I guess with any language, there is a lot of memorization that does have to occur by default if you want to really understand, like, to be able to use the words, to recognize them. And all the memorization, inshallah, happens easily. And I think, I mean, it doesn't happen easily, but it happens easily when you're doing little by little and enjoying the process. So that's why I try, inshallah, to do about 5 words, new words, that are like relative to what we're talking about, to kind of build a foundation. And that's sort of how my teachers taught me too, is they would give us like some, it wouldn't be these intensive vocabulary words about this, but just something basic, kind of like a lot like what we're doing in the new curriculum is just keeping it so that we maintain the meanings and that we use them, and we start to, as my professor said, we start to own the language, and it starts to become a part of something natural, a natural process. And so here, basically, and the reason why I talk about memorization is because in this section, the pronouns really just kind of have to be memorized. So, I mean, the things I'll point out though is, because this is classical Arabic we're talking about, if you look here for the second person, we're talking about you. So, and I did talk about this briefly today with my class, is that you, if you're talking about one person, it's just you. But in classical Arabic, you're talking to 2 people, you have a specific pronoun for 2 people. And the reason why that's important is because that also changes the conjugation of the verb. So if you're talking to 2 people has a totally different conjugation. Talking talking about two people. So, and then also if you think about it, we have two people, you have two male people, and then you have two female people. So it's entuma, right? And it's, well actually no, entuma is the same, that's right. So if you're talking to two male and two female, it's entuma. And that, I wanted to make that distinguish that, because in modern standard Arabic, there is no dual, so you don't really ever worry about the dual. It's not used in, as far as I know, in reports or television. It's, the dual is in classical Arabic. Yeah, so, okay, some conversations. And so here the third person is who was he, huma is the dual, and whom is for they, all. He is, she, huma, again, is the dual, talking about two males or two females, and hunna. So this is interesting, and I'm curious if you know this, but the question is, so when you talk to a group of people, what if there's male and female? How do you decide whether you should use hunna or hum? And it's interesting because there are also a lot of there are other languages that are very similar in this regard, but in Arabic, if there's a group of males and there's one female, it would be hum. You're talking about to all males. You just kind of keep it simple, use the masculine. And then if there's a group of females that are all females, no males, then it's hunna. But what if there's one male in that group? Does anybody know? Would it be hum or hunna, even if it's majority? Yeah, that's right. So it's male, so home. So, and it's interesting because even I think Spanish is the same way. So, like if you're talking to a group, I think I clicked something. Well, I guess I'll keep going just for the sake of time. But if you're talking to like a class of kids and there's males and females, it's niños, it's kids. And then if it's two girls, it's niñas, and then it's two. It's a girl and a boy. Then you just use the masculine. I know, it's just the way it is. So Arabic also follows that similar rule, so it's important to know because sometimes at the same time you can kind of understand and derive different meanings based on who you're talking to. But in that case, it's important to know. And nahnu is for me, and is I. There was a joke that I remember my professor used to tell us about this male and female, but I just can't think of it right now. It was so perfect. I'll have to see if I can think of that. So it's finishing up. I just wanted to take what we learned today to show you a little bit how you can apply some of those things to understanding the Quran. And even with some of that basic information that we learned today, you'll actually find that you can understand more of the Quran just even in one session. And that's sort of why I like to give that flow chart of this year one, we did this, year two, we were able to do this, because the way I sort of look at it is that in each chapter you study of Arabic, classical Arabic, it opens a whole new world for you in understanding the Quran. So I think you guys will enjoy this, inshallah. So first of all, so this is in a short section from Surah Al-Balad. So here I'll just explain laqad, since we haven't covered that yet. Unless anyone wants to give it a try, if that is some fi'l or harf. It has a sukoon at the end, although that doesn't matter. Actually, yeah, it does matter. Yeah, it has a sukoon at the end. There's no tanween, there's no alif lam. So laqad is a harf. So that means it's not a verb because it's not acting on anything. So laqad, when you see this in the Quran, you can kind of memorize this. Is laqad is like it means like certainly. It even has, and that's what my Sheikh Sohail, my professor, used to tell me. I'll tell us all the time, is that even in Arabic, the use of the word, it has its own meaning just by the sound of it. So qad is like certainly. You know, it has a strong sound and a strong ending sound. So قَدْ خَلَقَنَا, like that. So indeed, and then this next section here is guess I will say, does anyone want to say, is that a verb or a noun? It's either. Yeah, it's a verb. Yeah, so it's a verb, and it's written in the past tense. And so it's khalaqana. So we haven't learned the conjugations yet, but I hope inshallah to provide that for you, so you can begin to understand where the verbs are, and what verbs look like in Arabic. So khalaqana means we have created, and then this next one, I think inshallah, you might be able to identify this one based on our lesson today is more what I would expect. But is this ism fi'l or harf? This next al-insan ism, yeah, it's an ism because of the alif lam, and also probably you know what it means too. And then just to give you, I guess this would be a sneak peek into future lessons, is that fi means in, although you might also know that, and kabadin. At the end here we have tanween at the end of kabadin. So we know in this case that that's a, so that's a noun. So basically you can kind of start to see here that just by learning some of these words now you have a whole meaning of understanding what this means, that indeed, certainly, we have created the noon alif at the end of khalaqna is the past tense for we. So we have created man in hardship. So it's or turmoil, I guess is another translation. So it's interesting. So that's basically what I wanted to share there. And just kind of wrapping it up, bring it all together. What are some of the benefits of teaching our kids Arabic? I think that we maybe have probably already answered that by the end of this session, so I don't want to be too redundant. But basically my feeling is that just as in my own process of learning, I felt like my fluency in Arabic improved once I started to understand what I was reading, because I wasn't just focusing on like letter by letter, what am I saying, but now I'm focusing on word by word, what is this meaning? And then the more you understand more words and you build your vocabulary grammar, then you start looking at the Quran ayah by ayah, by sentence, and it just increases the fluency of your reading, because you're not focusing on little details of the words. And improved pronunciation too, and I found this immediately actually in my first class, was that with some of the students, for example, some of my old students I had before used to kind of make the mistake of not giving the alif a long enough time, and probably some of the other teachers might also know this, is that instead of saying kitab, it might be kitab or something like that. But once they know the word kitab, that it's the word kitab, it should be. It doesn't sound right to say kitab. So when you understand now what the word means, you're more likely to say it correctly, because you know, okay, this has a totally different meaning. So I should probably say the alif so that it has its right, it has the meaning is correct there. And then I think just gaining meaning to the Quran is really beautiful, and being able to look at some of the verb roots to understand the verses in more complexity, more detail is really something special. And definitely gaining insight and focus in prayer. I mean, it's amazing to feel that, wow, you can connect because you're understanding exactly what you're saying, and you're understanding the meaning behind everything. And then this is one thing that's important for me. I wanted to share, and every year, I think for the past 5 or more years I've been teaching, is that I tell my students every year, just when you guys go to college, just take Arabic. It's an amazing experience. I mean, you already have I tell them that you already have the ability to read. Now it's a matter of just putting the pieces together and starting to learn some of the grammar. So it's kind of fun to, I guess, be able to teach that now in the class. And so continuing studying Arabic, and so this studying Arabic, I guess now really feel like opens the door for kids in the future to really, even have a head start in Arabic in university, and if they really wanted to pursue maybe a formal study of Islam with maybe some scholars, or to take more detailed classes, maybe about fiqh and different things, then having Arabic really helps a lot. It gives you much more insight. So I guess the next step is, so this was just kind of a brief sort of introduction, although we did actually cover 3 or more chapters from the book. So the question is, if you want to study Arabic, where should you go? And there's so many resources out there. But so I listed ones here that I have direct experience with. Fawaki Institute, I guess I can't recommend enough because that's the process I went. But I'll just be honest that it's intensive. It definitely requires about 3 hours a week or more of intensive study. And the Robota, which I recommend, is for females. And Nancy Tamara Gray is a convert, and she studied in Syria for 30 years. She came back to the United States, and now she offers classes online for women, and they're live. So that's nice. So you can go there and you can participate live each week. Seekers Hub, that's a different, if you're very self-motivated, I would recommend that. The classes are all recorded. That wasn't for me. the online class or the in-person class was really helpful in Fawaki Institute. Seekers Hub, if you can do it at your own pace, I recommend that one. The Closet Arabic Institute, some of you might know Mariam Kazmi. Is Selma Kazmi's sisters, was the executive director of the Boston Islamic Seminary. Miriam herself studied at the Closet Arabic Institute, and she studied in Jordan for a year because they offer study abroad programs. And so you could do something like that that's sort of outside of a university setting, but still getting an exchange experience. So that's a really nice one. They also offer online courses. Bayan Claremont is the Islamic chaplaincy program in California. They also offer live classes. And I definitely recommend that one because the scholars there are really good, like people that we know, even that have been local, like Imam Sohaib Webb, offers some classes at Bayan Claremont. And if you really want one-on-one tutoring at a relatively reasonable price, a colleague of mine told me about Studio Arabia. And so that's one-on-one, so if you're looking for something like that. So these are all different resources.
1 minute before the bell rings.
Perfect, great, because that's just the end. So if we're looking for if you're looking for future sessions, these are things we'll be kind of covering, looking more at verbs, possessives. And thank you. Sorry to leave it Although we might have time for one question. Does anybody have any questions?